So here's a complex diagram I use. A lot of lines, a lot of traces. It's definitely not for everybody, but it shows me a pattern that drives my swing. It's my swing. This is a diagram that makes sense to me. It defines a pattern of motion that drives other motion. The arrow is the hand line. The circle are the shoulders and how they turn like a steering wheel. Center line is the inner wall that my head doesn't cross and my hands, hip, forearm all line up to when I strike the ball. I simply use this file as a reminder in case I ever get off base. I return back to this motion. I also want to caution you, this is not C motion. C motion is quite different. The left hip trace pattern is totally different, as are the head movements, all the movements. This is simply a personal reminder of what works for me. It's my motion, all driven by the left hip spiral trace. Watch carefully. You can see that left hip trace here. It definitely leads to more body movement. But for me, it gives me more momentum into the ball and leads to further distance. We can look at other players and draw the same lines to frame the body and the joints. We could draw the inner wall to see if we stay on that wall with the side of our head. And yes, Greg Manhattan does do it. It's a baseball swing. It allows for rhythm and momentum. The left hip goes back, down, up, and around. McHatton based his swing on Ben Hogan. So if we draw the same lines, we can look at our model and see if it holds true, the movements and their patterns. It has the same left hip movement. The head stays on that line till after impact. And yes, it's very much the same. The body outside, the trace lines that I drew. Modern golf instruction would deem it as hip slide. And it definitely is. Let's look at Payne Stewart. Major winner. Head, shoulders, hips, knees, feet. Draw the inner wall. Uses the same left hip pattern, and you see the same body motions. Here's Rod. His patterns are different, and you'll see that. He had asked to learn C motion. And here in his swing, you'll see that the head is more steady, but it still doesn't break that line. Everything matches up the same. But there's not as much body movement. It's more stable and very little head movement. You can see the same thing in C motion's creator. It's a different pattern to the left hip movement. It goes back into the left quadrant. The pelvis opens up and allows the body free access to the ball. As you can see here, it's extremely stable and very efficient. You can control the club head face relationship quite easily. So a common key to these methods is get your pelvis open as you approach the strike. Once the body movements have been established, then we concentrate on the arms. Simply mimic the arm pattern above and use this drill with a hanger, and you'll have a good swing combined with the body motions that you decide are right for you. In my case, all driven by the one thought of the left hip and how it moves. Everything else just follows. It's simply motion.